week. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our special workshop where we're going to discuss the possible Brazos Cove subdivision. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order, declare that we do have a quorum present, and I'll ask Councilman Rosso, will you lead us in the pledge and the prayer?
Let's pray. Lord Jesus, we thank you for another day. You're such a good God to us. We thank you, Lord, for this opportunity you've given us to come together, to make decisions, to plan things out, Lord. We pray that you would bless this meeting, bless our minds, bless the council, bless the mayor and city council, and everyone under the sound of my voice. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, and you may be seated. We have not had anybody sign up to speak this evening. This is a workshop, so if questions come up along the way, raise your hand, let me know, and then we'll try to get some answers. Mr. Petty.
Yes, sir. Mr. Wong's been trying to develop this property for quite some time. We've met a few times and went over his plans and his ideas for this development. I decided when I met with him, we agreed that we'd have a workshop. That way he could go over this project, the mud and everything else. That way it gives council all the opportunities to answer any questions that they have. And then we'd look at putting it on a future agenda item. So Mr. Wong, take it away.
Members of City Council, I'd like to thank Mr. Lance Petty for setting up this workshop meeting to allow me the opportunity to explain to you what I'm trying to accomplish here in Freeport. As you may know, we own the 13 acres of land next to the high school, which we have designed, engineered to build residential homes. And we are quite far along. The plans have been approved, and we are ready to advertise to get it started. But I've always mentioned, especially to the last city council, city manager, the idea of annexing it into the existing Freeport mud that we have. And the reason being, every development north of Freeport, and I can show you some of them that I'm involved with, everybody develops in a mud. And for us to develop this 13 acres without being in a mud, I could not compete. I could not compete in price.
Mr. Wong, can you speak into the mic just a little clearer? We're having troubles hearing you in the back.
Is this better?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, should I start over again?
No, sir. Just
Okay, so in order for the 13 acres to be feasible, we need to have it annexed into Freeport Mud 1, which we have already established, and it is serving the Freeport industrial tract of land that we're also going to be developing. It is very important that we getting the 13 acres annex into Freeport Mud number 1 in order for us to compete with all the development north of Freeport. Also, if we're going to be developing the industrial port and creating jobs, I would like to make sure that there is housing available for people coming to work to Freeport. It's no sense investing in the capital, bringing the jobs, and people are driving back to Houston to live. I would really like to see them coming here, working here, living here, spending their money in Freeport, and also creating more retail commercial development in Freeport, which we also have the land that could be suitable for that. But it's not possible to develop the retail unless we have a lot more foot traffic. And it is my objective is to create more jobs here, more housing. And I would like to also make it very clear that annexing the 13 acres for housing is just the beginning. That in itself, it's not enough to provide the housing that the industrial park is capable of developing. We're going to be having to maybe annexing more land and create enough traffic so that we can get the big boxes like the Krogers, like the HEBs to come into Freeport. So one subdivision is not enough. We're going to have to continue developing. So I'm very interested in the growth of Freeport. You know, I would like to play my part and do it right, just like we have, you know, done in so many other subdivisions, you know, north of us. So I really appreciate for Mr. Petty to be setting up this workshop so that I can explain my position, where I stand in developing this 13 acres. I cannot develop it without it being in the mud so I can compete with all the development up to the north. And if you would like for me to show you some of the developments that we have done to the north, I'd be more than happy. I mean, I brought down some subdivisions here. I could show to you what we have done, and everyone is in the mud. So how can I come further south and try to develop and compete with these people? I need to attract more jobs here, more housing, and more spending, and to improve the growth of Freeport. That's my objective. And tonight, I would like to reach out to you all to see if I can get your support and understanding to consider the annexation of the 13 acres into Freeport Mud. And I can pass out to you, if you have not seen the layout of the subdivision. Eric, can you?
We all
Can-
got big ones.
Oh, you all have it?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Right. So that's why I'm appreciate having the workshop, so we can explain our position and to see if we can rally your support so we can continue the growth of Freeport.
Mr. Wong, on this, this copy that Mr. Petty had passed out to us, I'm seeing what looks like possibly 25-foot lots.
Here, there are mixtures of townhouses and single-family lot development, yes. And again, if the market demand any slight changes, I mean, we could be flexible to accommodate the market because we develop for a lot of the national builders. And sometimes when we go to them, they're going to do their research also of the marketplace to see what is most suitable here. So they could say, we want to make an adjustment. So I just want to make sure that is clear. The roads will not change. The drainage, the buffer that we are putting, all that stays in the place. But the lot size could vary slightly.
I understand. Council, you have any questions for Mr. Wong? There's a lot of houses in that.
Not enough.
In that parcel of land, that's a lot. But you are correct. It's not enough for the city.
But look at the amount of open space, amount of drainage and detention facilities. And we purposely put it alongside the road to separate us from the adjacent subdivision, make it more pleasant for everyone.
And I'm sure they'll appreciate that.
Well, good to have friendly neighbors.
That is correct.
Would you care to see some of the subdivisions that we have done
Absolutely.
north of Freeport? Eric?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
On the first page, you will see Glendale Lakes. Glendale Lakes is located in FM 521 in Arcola. The size of it is probably 900 to 1,000 acres. And we've been having great success in developing it. And our main problem, I'm running out of land. We eventually will connect Glendale Lakes and back to 288. And that will also connect back to another subdivision on the second page that we are planning to develop in Iowa Colony. It's over 600 acres. It's on both sides of 288, and we're negotiating now to get it started. We already got the mud created on it. It is Brazoria County Mud 38, just like Glendale Lakes. It's Fort Bend Mud 41, and in Lacoville Lakes, we already have Brazoria County Mud 38 in place to have the development started. Right now, they are constructing the underpass where County Road 48 will be going under 288 and over on the other side where we also have a tract of land. And it extends as far south as County Road 57, where they are now building an overpass over 288. So, and we have also acquired even more land north of Lacoville Lakes on the north side to get more detention, more drainage, so that we can mitigate our floodplain going through the property. So more land is even going to be added onto Lacova Lakes. The engineering plans is further along, and we should be starting development on County Road 57 first. But what was important is that we worked closely with Iowa Colony, and we got MUD 38 in place, approved. And the attorney who handles it is sitting right behind me. Any questions you need to ask her about MUDs, she's the expert. I leave it in her good hands. Okay, if you turn to the next page, you will see that subdivision is called Kendall Lakes. And Kendall Lakes is in Alvin. You can see Highway 35, go past it. And then also we are operating that subdivision in Brazoria County, MUD 36. The subdivision to the north, we see all those lots. Majority of it is built out, only a small portion left to be filled. It's going so well that we are going to be taking a part of the industrial just immediately south to create more lots for that development. The residential is going very, very well in the subdivision. Now, on the fourth page, you can see there's another subdivision that we have done, and it is called Rodeo Palms. It is north of Highway 6 and next to 288. Unfortunately, the entire subdivision has been built out. We have annexed land in it. We have taken it to County Road 48, and we have used up all the land. And the only thing we're doing now is building the commercial along Highway 6, where you see HEB and all those places out there. So as far as we're concerned, Rodeo Palm is finished. That's why we're going south of Highway 6 to start Lacovia Lakes in Iowa Colony, where we have land on both sides. So we started many years ago from Pearland, and we did Sunrise Lakes up there and a couple other subdivisions, and then we gradually move ourselves down to Manville and did Rodeo Palms. Now we're going down to Iowa Colony to do Lacovia Lakes. And just immediately west of it, Glendale Lakes, we're burning through almost 1,000 acres. The development there has been so strong. So we've been experiencing a good demand in this side of Houston. Also, I would like to mention on the next page, you'll see a subdivision called Lakeshore Harbor, which is in Missouri City. We have put almost every lot on water, on lakes. Almost every lot is abutting it, and you can have your boats attached to a dock. You can go on the dock, you can sit in the evening, you can have a cigar, you can have a scotch, you can relax and enjoy life. And it has taken off so well that we have now completed 825 houses on this property, and we just don't have enough land left to make it any larger. Now, having said that, if you turn to the last page in the back, I took a photograph of just a portion of it, just to show you the effect of the houses on the lakes. And one of the reasons I'm highlighting this is that I think there is an opportunity in Freeport, especially on the land that you have next to the Gulf, to build canal lots like you build in Coco Plum in Miami, Gable Estate in Florida, where they have big houses, big yachts, and people can use it to go into the ocean. And likewise, we could do the same thing going into the Gulf and do it on a very attractive scale. And this could add another feature for the way people live in Freeport. We need more things, more retail, we need more housing and different type of amenities so that people up north will come down, build their houses, have their yachts, and weekends come and use it, which would even be better if they would come and live there and utilize it. So that's something I would also like to introduce to Freeport, if we can get the right tract of land and to be able to access into the Gulf. And that's by coming down to maybe where the Brazos River is, into the Gulf, or through the opening where the ship channel is on the port of Freeport. So I'm looking on those opportunities too, because in developing Freeport, you just don't want to just add 13 acres and stop. You want to get the momentum going. You want to continue to develop and create more traffics and create more retail development. You know, so that's our objective. And I think the industrial part, once we can resolve the drainage improvements and get that going, that should be able to create a lot of jobs into Freeport. And a lot of jobs is going to require housing. And it's going to require where they can spend their money in shopping. So it's a continued, process. And I can tell you this evening, if we get the 13 acres going, I would like opportunities to probably acquire more residential land to build more housing, because I'm comfortable that we're going to create more jobs for people to live, and I would like to keep them in Freeport rather having them come into Houston. I can find enough people in Houston to occupy these subdivisions I'm doing. They don't have to leave Freeport to come up here. And you see the traffic coming in this evening, people leaving, coming into Houston. I mean, it is mind-boggling to see the amount of traffic. So that is the approach I'm planning to take. And I want to begin with by annexing the 13 acres into the mud and get things started.
Mr. Wong, just one question here real quick. On the industrial development that you have out there, what phase of development are you in right now?
What phase?
Yes, sir.
Well, we brought All In Corporation. We have already put in the infrastructure with the road going in. What we're doing now is to working out with engineers on the drainage to create, the city of Freeport virtually drains through that property. I think you got about 7 different canals. We have engineers to reroute it around the subdivision back to where your pump stations are. That design has been done. One of the things that we are trying to negotiate with the drainage district is to do it in phases. It's an enormous cost to do it on a whole. So we're going to try and see if we can phase the development. So I do have negotiations going on right now to phase it. And also, I'm trying to find a way to attract more industries to come in at the same time. There's no sense putting in all of this capital costs and we do not have industries to absorb it. So I'm working hand in hand. But I think we have identified how to handle drainage. I still have some negotiations to do as to the ability to phase it. I got to phase it.
Will this residential development, is it dependent upon the industrial development, or would you move forward
Which one? You
on
mean?
the residential development without the industrial movement, since you're still in negotiations with Velasco Drainage District?
Yes.
So that would not delay this project here? You
The
would-
13 acres?
Yes, sir.
No, I would be willing to commit on the 13 acres. It's only 70 lots, so I would like to get infrastructure in and get that going and be assured that as we improve the industrial and create more jobs, people would have, place to live. But I would like to find other sites that in future we can develop for more housing. The retail, we don't have to worry about. I already got a nice site, ideally located, but I need a foot traffic to support big box coming in. Kroger's, H-E-B are not going to be coming in to that retail site until you have the traffic, the foot traffic. I deal with these people for a long time, so I know that the demographics will have to be there to support it, which is, reasonable.
Mr. Wong, you may or may not be able to answer this. On the residential, what kind of price point are we looking at on the homes?
As much as I can get.
That's an honest answer.
I'm serious. I mean, it's a cost of development, and we're going to price it well that we can sell it, but I'm going to try and get as best a price as I can. And I negotiate with these national builders all around Houston, and that's my intention.
And I would assume these are going to be more higher end as opposed to starter homes.
Oh, yeah.
What's the minimum square footage that you're gonna start out at?
The houses,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to get the builders to help determine that.
Okay.
Jarvis, I know you have some questions for him.
Oh, yeah, because that's my neighborhood over there, Mr. Wong. I live behind this. I live at Brazos Landing Court. So that'll be right in my backyard. Yeah, so, what was it? So you said the mud, when you get the mud, you guarantee that you're gonna build this subdivision all the way out. You're gonna get started. How long you think it'll take you to get started?
How long do you take me to do what?
How long do you think it would take you to get started on this project if it get passed through the mud?
If I get it into the mud, based on where my plans is, I think within 90 days.
90 days.
Within 90 days, I could get started. By putting in the streets and digging the detention pond right alongside the road, which create a nice buffer between Brazos Landing and Brazos Cove.
So houses, how long do you think it would take to start on houses?
Housing is going to depend on the demographics. The builders are always building half a dozen homes, always ahead of the market. And they will continue doing that based on the demand.
Oh, yeah,
No builders is going to go in there and build out
right,
70 houses.
right,
But usually they build 2 handful of houses and then push for the sale.
yeah,
And I'm hoping that our industrial development will also help generate the demand for housing. And other developers too. One person can't do it, Mr. Mayor. We need to get multiple developers coming in here and all doing the same thing.
and so your interests is like on Rodeo Palms and all of them, they got a certain little interest, you know, the waterfalls or anything.
Yeah.
You have a little interest gonna come through there, I mean, you know,
Well, we usually put up a nice entry monument to identify the subdivisions.
yeah,
And we do build recreation center with Olympic pools and all of that,
yeah,
depending on the size of the project.
right.
Council, I'd like to say, I think this is the third time I've been in meetings with Mr. Wong about this particular project. And the past councils have been reluctant to include the mud. And I strongly believe that that is what is holding us back. And I also believe that Freeport still needs a new housing development.
Yes.
So I would encourage council to continue asking whatever questions that you have, but personally, I feel like this is a direction that we should seriously think about taking.
Hello, Mr. Wong. Thank you for coming down.
Oh, thank you.
I have quite a few questions for you.
Okay.
I'm a lifelong resident. I've been here when you got your very sweetheart deal on your industrial urban renewal property. You haven't developed it. You said you brought Olin. Olin didn't come because of you. They came because of Dow. They came because Dow sold them a part of property of their plants, and they needed warehouse. Just so happened you had property. So you've told us before that you were going to develop. And in my time here, you haven't. Why is that?
You talk about the industrial park?
The industrial park, but you also stated when you purchased that property that you're going to put residential. You haven't done anything. You've just cleared the land, and it's just sat there. Why is that?
Well, we cleared the land. We acquired more land to put the tension in to be able to facilitate the development of the Olin Corporation building, which, as you can see, is in place. And that street that we have been built, it's a wider street than you have seen anywhere. It's at least 36, 41 foot wide with curb and gutter going up, and we could facilitate another development to the side. So what we're waiting for is more demand for industrial buildings in there. And in the meantime, we're working out the drainage, the partial drainage, so that we can have at least 150 acres more of land to accommodate more industries. So development does take time, And development also depends on demographic support to make it happen. So to answer your question, it's many factors that are involved to get us where we need to be. Now, if we can get resolved pretty soon the partial improvement of the drainage, which is very important to the industrial development, we would start on that very, very quickly, because we have hydrology plans done, construction plans ready, but the demographics cannot support a total investment for the entire drainage at one time. We have to phase it. So that is the direction that we're going. The question was asked about housing. That I have control in. We can start that. But on the industrial side, I got to be able to resolve the partial drainage for it to be economically feasible to do that development. So that's what I'm pursuing right now.
Okay. So again, when the property was sold to you, you stated you were going to build some residential, yet you never have. Why is that?
I mean, on that same industrial?
On that property, yes.
Yes. Well, the industrial side, how we have land planned it is that mostly the property on the west side will go for industrial. On the east side to Valeska Boulevard, we would consider doing some residential on that side. The only problem right now on that side, some of that land is in the floodplain. Until we can resolve the floodplain issues, we cannot touch that residential. So I'm more comfortable that on the 13 acres, there is nothing to restrict commencement of development on that track to provide housing while we're developing industrial. That housing on the industrial is provided there, but then on the other hand again, if I got the industrial going, and there should be a lot of industries coming in, and I'm working on a plan to make that happen, to absorb as much of that land as possible for industry, I would strongly recommend that we focus in that direction rather than putting housing on that property. That property is well suited for industrial development. Not to say I wouldn't put some housing on the east side when I resolve the floodplain issues, but it'd be nice if that entire property could be absorbed with industries, because you know why? It will bring more jobs, and more jobs will create more demand for housing, more demand for retail. That is how I'm looking at the picture. So I'm still flexible, I'm still open to all of these alternatives, but the more important thing right now is to resolve the drainage to make that property more feasible.
Okay. So you're here asking us to grant you the annexation of these 18 acres, 17 acres,
13 acres.
13 acres into this Freeport Mud number 1. That's an industrial mud, correct?
Pardon?
Is that an industrial mud?
No, it's just a mud, a municipal utility district mud,
Correct.
which can handle industry, retail, housing, everything.
But it's majority industrial property, correct?
Right now on that track of the 320, but as you add other lands in it, it can be for other functions.
Okay, but it's industrial, correct?
Well, on that land is proposed
Okay,
to do
thank you.
industrial, yeah.
So what happens if we do grant you this, and this residential, and those industries go belly up? Who's going to protect the residents with this mud? It's got to be paid, the money. So who's going to protect them?
Well, the
Are you
que-
going to give us some type of guarantees?
Well, the question you're asking, that could apply to any subdivision.
Correct.
Any developer is building anywhere.
Correct, but this is a residential and mainly industrial mud. That's the difference. I've done my research, haven't seen anybody request a mud with mostly industrial annexing in residential. I haven't seen it. Do you have any proof of this has been done in the state of Texas?
Well, yes, when we do subdivisions, we allocate so much land for industry, retail, housing, apartments. We do that. And if the demand for industry is stronger, we will continue in that process. All we're trying to do is create value in the mud. So if the demographics call for more industry, why not? If it calls for more retail, why not? But your question is, what happens if you put multiple type of different development in a mud, and one sector should go belly up? What would happen to the rest of the mud? The legal process alone will take care of that.
It would fall on the backs of the residents.
No, it will fall back on the banks who are lending money, and it will be foreclosed, it will be repurchased, it will be just like anywhere else. Your neighbor next door could fall into problems, and then he may be forced to sell, and somebody is coming to move in. I mean, in this free enterprise system that we're all living in, I mean, nobody can guarantee that something cannot go wrong. But there is always a course of action. The banks are going to be wanted protected, right? You always have other buyers are wanting to come in. I mean, and the market, as you and I know, keeps going up and down, up and down. Don't care what we do. So we have to adjust to all of that. I wish I could have a development that is 100% guaranteed and never have a failure. I can knock wood, I have not had any problem with any of my subdivision, but of course, there are some houses that may get foreclosed. There might be some retail shop that is probably closed and has to be released again, but all of that is minor, and we can always adjust to that. That's the free enterprise system we all live in. Right, you're going to have ups and downs, but you got to know how to build and protect and adjust to that.
Correct. And I'm looking to protect the residents.
Yeah.
You're looking to make money, which I'm not against,
Yeah.
but I'm looking to protect the residents and I'm looking to protect the city.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong in doing so, protecting the residents.
So, again, is there anybody in the state of Texas that has an industrial mud annex in a residential property?
Oh, you just go along John F. Kennedy, south of the airport. I mean, you will see muds that has residential, that has industrials. I mean, on JFK alone, I can tell you we've provided land out of one of our mud that's probably have built over 4 million square feet of industrial space. I mean, it depends on where you are.
Great. If you can provide that information to Mr. Petty, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I mean, a mud that has a lot of industrials in it.
An industrial mud that was created that annexed in a residential.
We don't call it an industrial mud. Like on this one, I'm not calling this one a retail, a residential, or industrial mud. I'm calling this one Freeport Mud Number 1.
Correct.
Which is going to incorporate all types of
But it was
development.
created for industrial, correct?
No, it's created for development, for the improvement of Freeport. That is what it is there for.
Okay. I think you and I have different opinions on this. So how long have you been with, in negotiations with Velasco Drainage District on this drainage plan?
Negotiations have started. It's been going on for some time. And as much as we continue doing our engineering and hydrology studies and working up our costs, and based on the demographic demand, I'm continue going back to them and trying to make adjustment to make it feasible for this development to come through. Now, Velasco Drainage District, I don't know how well you know them.
I know
Well,
him really
they're-
well. I know Chris Gallion, superintendent. Him and I are really good
Right.
friends.
I mean, they're tough. They want everything that they can get, but there's some negotiations left between us to make it work. It has to satisfy the demographic demand of that area and how much one can afford to spend to do the development. So I do have my negotiation cut out for me, but whatever you do, you got to make sure that you negotiate and act in a very sensible economic way. And so I do have some more negotiation and twisting to do with Velasco, and I'm hoping to get this project going as soon as I can.
Okay. So again, you still haven't told me, when did you start this negotiation? Is it a year ago,
I
5
think
years
at-
ago, 10 years ago?
About a couple of years ago, when did we start? We do Velasco.
9 months recently.
Huh?
9 months recently. 9 months.
He says 9 months.
9 months.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Mr. Wong, who did you say they were?
What?
Who did you say they were that you have with you?
Oh, Eric Ungar is one of our project manager, and he's involved with Freeport. And Katie Corner, she is a lawyer connected with the mud creation.
With a mud?
Allen Boone and Humphreys, she's with that company.
So you know a lot about the mud. So maybe, if he got, yeah, if he got some, it sounds like he got some mud questions, so you can be more qualified for him to answer his questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wrote that note down.
Yeah.
So our firm, ABHR, Allen Boone Humphreys Robinson, we represent municipal utility districts and other special purpose districts throughout the state of Texas. So we have offices in Houston, Central Texas, and North Texas. And so we see a wide range of development. I don't have a specific district name for you here, but I took the note down to get some examples for you where, we see pretty much, if you can develop it, it's probably been done in a MUD or another special purpose district in Texas, where you might start with industrial and then move on to other uses. We have mixed use with industrial, commercial, residential, all in the same district. And annexation of land, it just kind of depends where you started and then where things go from that. As Clinton was saying, he is, as from the developer side, is basing it on what the economics are going to support. And so in this case, it happened that the industrial happened first with Olin, and so that's where it began. But as you've heard him talk about, he has other ideas for bringing other type of development into the city for the improvement of it.
Okay. So you're going to get me those?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll gather some examples for you. Like I said, annexation happens in different orders. But we can certainly see what we can find for that. But sometimes it's residential first and then industrial. Sometimes it all happens at the same time. I I can think of some, especially in the Houston area, you know, where Clinton was talking about, but also west of the Houston area on the I-10 corridor out west towards Katy. There's a lot of that happening in that part of the city where you have kind of an industrial corridor, a lot of warehouses and other facilities right along the highway with the residential right behind it. And I just have to go back and see what order that all developed in, but some of those certainly are within the same MUDs.
Okay.
And I will say the flip side that we see when you have a MUD that has mixed use, so when you have a combination of residential and industrial or commercial, of course, you always have a risk that you could have a bankruptcy in a business. As Clinton was saying, in that case, there still is the value of the property. So, you know, there still is a retained value for that land, even if the current use of it goes under. And so from the MUD perspective, you know, the MUD makes its money to pay its operations and also pay for any debt if it issues bonds based on the value of the property. And so, you know, as Clinton was saying, even if a current operator goes bankrupt, y'all are familiar as the city because you levy taxes as well, you know, that still does retain an obligation for the property owner, any subsequent property owners. And so, you know, if there was a bank that was securing that loan, you know, that obligation would still remain on that property to pay those past due taxes. Then on the flip side of the coin is that because the state of Texas allows for residential homestead exemptions, sometimes what we've seen be very successful as a MUD becomes more mature and grows and gets quite a bit of development and value on the ground is, you know, if the district's financial advisor recommends based on that picture that year, the MUD may be able to grant a homestead exemption to those homeowners who live in their properties in the community. And then that way you can actually benefit your homeowners by having that commercial or industrial or both in the same MUD. And so we've seen that work very well in a lot of cases. And I know sometimes, you know, as city council members, if you have an interest in having more folks actually reside within their homes and not have rental properties or those sorts of things, people who live part of the week or part of the year in their homes, you know, if you're able to implement a homestead exemption, sometimes that can help people want to actually live in those homes permanently and claim that exemption because they can get a benefit from it from a tax side.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Wong, if I can have you go back again.
You're back in the hot seat. He wants you.
Yeah, thank you.
So why are you asking for a MUD for residential, not a PID or a TERS?
Well, we had talked to your previous city manager, and he had mentioned about consider doing a TERS, and documents were prepared, and we read it, and we even showed it to our financial advisor, Craig Ratman, to look at it. It just couldn't work. And rather than using city money under the TERS to do it, why not let the developer, through the MUD, use his own capital expenditure to get things going and relies on his success to be able to sell bonds to redeem his costs, right? It's solely at the risk of the developer. We don't need city to do any funding. So we waited, and we're so accustomed to doing MUDs for umpteen years all around, and we have never had one failure in any of our MUDs. All of them are growing. So rather than trying to take city money under the TERS and with tight condition that is just not feasible, I decided, no, I wasn't interested doing it that way. Let me do it my customary way through the MUD.
Okay.
I can say that I have 100% success in operating MUDs in all my years of development. 100%.
Okay.
With your help.
I was going to say, can I add something?
Sure.
And the one thing I wanted to add, just to make sure, because I think Clinton touched on it earlier, but maybe I can highlight it a little bit more, is that in the MUD world, the developer is putting up all the funds, and payment comes expressly from the property owners within the MUD. So the issue, and I mean, we saw it by the cars leaving Freeport. As we were driving down south, we were watching a lot of cars leaving the Freeport area for those residents who I presume work in the area and then live elsewhere, right? They're living in developments that are mostly created with MUDs. And what that allows is for infrastructure to be financed over time with tax-exempt bonds by the people who are benefiting from them. That infrastructure is going to be required no matter what. Either the city is going to have to build it, right? It's within the city, so otherwise it would be your obligation to build all of that and pay for it for all of the existing city residents, including those who have lived here all their lives. And so the idea is that if you have that infrastructure pay for itself by the people who are benefiting from it, you can pay it back over time with tax-exempt bonds, and then that allows Clinton to be able to market houses at a lower cost. Because if he had to bear the cost himself, so in other words, if it couldn't be reimbursed to him once the value is put on the ground, once the development is actually there, then he would have to build that into the price that he charges to those home builders per lot. And so what that would mean is that every homeowner that buys that first house, so that they build the house on the lot, all of the cost of that infrastructure is going to have to be rolled into that price. And so they're going to have to, pay their mortgage payment based on that over time. When they sell that house, I mean, most people want to make money when they sell a house. They don't want to lose money on it. And so over and over again, every time that house is sold, you're paying that same cost of the infrastructure over and over again, plus the mortgage cost, the loan cost. The idea behind a MUD is that, the MUD is issuing those bonds once for the infrastructure. It's paid out over time, typically at a rate significantly lower than what a homeowner is paying on their private mortgage. And that debt gets paid off over time. And as that debt gets paid off, then those homeowners and property owners benefit because the tax rate goes down. And so I'm not a financial advisor, but I will say I've worked with enough MUDs that I have seen that typically the MUD tax rate, as you pay that debt off over time, that tax rate declines and eventually you pay that debt off. So the debt service portion goes away. And as opposed to if it's rolled into the lot cost, that never goes away because you're just paying that over and over because nobody wants to lose money when they sell their house. And so that's one of the reasons we've seen the MUD model be so successful in Texas. And it's one of the ways that we have helped to keep housing costs down in the state. And so I just wanted to kind of add a little bit more because I know Clinton did touch on that a little bit, but just wanted to make sure I made that point.
How long ago, what amount of time are y'all do y'all want this MUD for? How many years?
So I think in the original consent conditions, I don't know if I have them in front of me. It was 25 years in the original consent conditions from when they were issued 2 years ago. So right now we're at a total of 23 years.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Wong. Thank you again. So as a former member of the Freeport EDC, I've heard of quite a few interested businesses who wanted to develop within the industrial property that you currently own. But they wanted to purchase property and you didn't sell. Why?
Can you repeat that? They want to purchase what?
So they wanted to purchase parts of that property to build their own buildings, but you didn't sell. Why?
If they want to purchase the property, I mean, we're feasible. We'll consider selling it to them if they want to build it, or we build it for them. Either way. Is that your question?
So yes, and you just answered my second question. So those businesses stated that you only wanted to build. You didn't want to sell. You wanted to lease.
No,
Why
I'm open. I lease, sell, build, everything. I'm very flexible.
Okay. So from this point forward, if somebody goes to you and they want to purchase property, you will sell it to them for industrial building?
Sure, and they build, and within the specification and satisfying the requirements of the city and ourselves, I will have no problem with that.
Okay. That's good to hear. What other property do you own in Freeport besides this, the industrial urban renewal property and this 13 acres?
We also own a tract of land that is behind CVS,
Okay,
about 15 acres.
okay. So that's prime commercial real estate.
What?
Prime commercial real estate for Freeport.
Oh, prime retail.
Yes, yes, retail. Okay,
Uh-huh. And if you want to see a copy of it, I can show it to you.
so if we did grant you this MUD, when will you start building on retail? I know you're stating that you can't you can't get people to come retail because there's not enough foot traffic. But I guarantee you, with the amount of people that live here who go to surrounding cities to make their purchases, it would be supported. I know you state H-E-B, Kroger's won't come, but there are other brands of retail, grocery, that would come. That's our biggest need right now, is grocery. I know H-E-B has a lower cost grocery store, Jovi's. I'm sure they would be interested. So when would you build on that retail?
Well, first of all, let me show you the tract of land. This is where the 13 acres is.
Correct,
This is where CVS is.
correct,
This is the property that,
correct,
yeah, why don't you look at it?
correct. I know exactly where this property's at. Yes, sir. So when would you start construction on retail? If we granted you a MUD? Because honestly, my line of thinking is if I'm going to grant you a MUD, I'm going to want something more, because so far, your promises previously, you haven't lived up to them. So I'm going to want something in return to grant you what you're asking for the residents of Freeport.
That answer is so simple. I want to develop the industrial, I want to bring in more jobs, I want to create more foot traffic, and as soon as there is a demand for commercial retail, I already have the land. That land is yielding me nothing at this time, and I have to be mowing it every month, right? I would like to see a substantial big box be placed there. But having dealt with these guys, and we just put a new one up in Humble, Costco, and Kroger, I know what it takes to get these people to come in. They need to be sure that there is enough demand, foot traffic, to support the store before they're going to commit. So I have the land. If they want to come in and build on it, I will be the happiest person to negotiate a deal for them to build something. It's a no-brainer. Give me the traffic first, and they're the one who's going to ask that question. Do you have the head counts? Can you support a big store like an H-E-B or like a Kroger? I mean, they're going to do their homework. You're not telling them. And when they do want it, they're going to come after you and try and get the land to build a retail. And I think we have an excellent location for that type of development. But you don't have enough demographic support to make that happen yet. And I want to see that happen. The land is there to be built on. It's no use sitting there mowing it every month. It's costing me money. I want to see a suitable shop so that people don't have to leave here and go to Lake Jackson to go and shop. There should be no need for that. You want to build it here. But then you've got to have the demand to justify for these big bucks to come in. And I know how much attention they pay to that. They do their research, and they have to make sure that they can support a big box before they commit. The good thing is, I have the land. And I think it's one of the most central piece of land that can be developed. And I'm not using it for anything else but for retail. And that land has access from 2nd Street, 4th Street, and if I want to get in from 288, I could also make that possible. So it is centrally located for retail commercial. So let's get housing going, let's get more foot traffic, and let's make it happen.
And that's what I want to do. But again, like I've stated, you've made a lot of promises and you haven't kept your word to them in this decade plus that you've owned Urban Renewal. So I'm a little leery.
Sometimes we can project what we want to do, but a lot of time we have to depend on the market. We have to depend on the demographics to support it. We could talk all day long, but if the demographics cannot support it, it will not happen. And these guys who are building these big boxes are even smarter than us. They're doing their homework. They want to make sure that there's enough demand to justify this capital cost to build a big box. So I know how it works.
Correct. I too know how it works. Last question that I have. And looking at your development, very, very little park space within this. Yes, we're butting up to Memorial Park, but do you have any plans for any type of small park within this community? Because I don't see anything in here, in your
Any
plans.
small what?
Park space.
Oh, yes, we would, in building the residential, depending how large it is, we will build our own recreation center, clubhouse, Olympic pools. We build all of that, and we'll also create open space for them. We do all of that, and it all relative to the size of the subdivision that we're doing. Now, the one on the 13 acres, you don't have enough homes to support a big recreation center, like a swimming pool and everything, because it's going to be too costly. So it depends on the size of your development, and those amenities will fit into place. Parks, we have no problems with that.
Okay. And that's what I'm concerned of, is a small park within that neighborhood, because you're wanting to attract families along with other living. And so I didn't see any park space within this area. And so that's why I was just curious about it. If there would be a small, doesn't have to have an
Now, if you look
Olympic-sized
at those
pool.
plans, and in the big subdivision, you will see park space, and you would see recreation centers in most of those subdivisions.
Which I don't see in this one, but that's fine. We can talk about that later when we get further down the line. That's all the questions I have right now. I may come up with some more and pass them along to our city manager to have answered.
Sure,
Thank you.
okay.
Mr. Davis, you got some more?
Yeah, let's roll. Mr. Wong
Yes, yes.
and Ms. Salmon, thank you for coming out. I'm excited to see what you can do with this property over here. I took a ride out and I went to visit Lakeshore Harbor, and that is a amazing piece of property out there with the water and all of that going on. And I seen the big recreational center in the middle with the pool and all
And waterfalls.
and the waterfalls in there, and I understand this property is not big enough for nothing like that. It ain't big enough for no park. I ain't got no park in my residence over there. We got parks all around Freeport. If we can fit a recreation center thing in there, that's cool and good. But we need the houses in here. Is what I need you to be dedicated and be a man of your word, and you build them houses over there like you promised. You got the other land over there. It's just bigger than what we know when it comes to making business and deals like that. And I understand the foot traffic and because you can say you want HEB here, but HEB ain't coming here if they got a seat on where they gonna make the money at. We had a Kroger's here before a long time ago, and Kroger's left. So I understand and I see the foot traffic leaving in and out of Freeport. I've lived here all my life, I see coaches and big roles in our city don't live in our city. I see principals. I see all these people in the plants over here, engineers and making good money. Like you say, driving back and forth down the track. And all I hear is excuses that we don't have the homes for them to live in. They make $100,000, $200,000. They don't want to buy a $60,000 and $70,000, $80,000 house. No, they want a nice home, and we don't have them, So that's what we need. So when you're building this, we can't grow and get the people, get the businesses in here. I've seen multiple small restaurants and stuff come in Freeport and not make it because it's nobody over there in the parking lot. That's facts. We got one over there now, and it's only, I don't see how they making it. And it's pretty good, but the people are not spending money in the town, and businesses are watching that. So, if that's the case, the city manager would know, Chick-fil-A would be reaching out to us. HEB would have been reaching out to him if they wanted to come in here. So it must be a reason that they don't want to come in here. It's because we don't have, now we have a lot of people that's going to HEB. I shop at HEB. And I go to our little store to get my little things, or if I forget, I go there every now and then, but I don't go there and get a basket full. When I go to the grocery store, I'm sorry, but I go to HEB and shop. you know. So yeah, I want HEB here, you know. And like you said, you got the prime spot there, and I would save it to use that too. I'm as a business mind, man. But when they call, you'll be ready, hopefully, and you will make that move to allow them to come in here. These houses, we got to get these houses built. Even the mud, my wife works at the appraisal district. She's the secretary of the chief appraisal, the head chief appraisal. So she know all about this mud. She's been explaining this mud to me the whole time, and it's mud everywhere. Everywhere is mud. It's mud in Lake Jackson. It's mud in Angleton. It's mud everywhere. And when you buy a house that's in a mud district, you know that when you buy that house. It's not like they popping nothing up on you to buy that. If you want to live in a nice neighborhood like a HOA or whatever, everybody don't want to live there because you have to go by them rules, but it's still full. If you got all these mud district subdivisions out there, it's still full. The people know where you want to live. It's where you want to spend your money and how you want to spend your money. And if you can afford a $300,000 or $400,000 house and it's in the mud, you're going to buy it because you like it. You like the area. And that's where you want to live at. Now, true enough, everybody can't afford to stay in a mud district. You know, that's the extra tax. Tax is already high enough. But it's not for everybody. I'm sorry. I might not stay in the mud district. You know, it just depends on where I work and what kind of money I'm making. You know, but we need all kinds of houses. We need some. We need some lower subdivisions too, where you can get $150,000, $200,000 houses. But we need all of that, and we need retail. And I understand if you put retail shops out there and half of them belly up and the shops just be sitting there. Well, you need that big store there to have foot traffic there. If you buy a regular house and you can't afford to pay the house note or the taxes on it, it gets foreclosed. It's just like any other house. So it's your choice. It ain't putting it on the backs of the citizens. The citizens know that that house is in a mud district, so they know if they can afford that house or not. And it's not putting it on the backs of tourists or whatever it is.
The TERS?
TERS. No, that means the city got to pay some money to help with that infrastructure or something, or whatever's going on in here. When these guys in the mud, they foot the whole bill. I mean, we need to get houses built here in Freeport, some kind of way. It's been, I don't know how long it's been since it's been a development housing built. I mean, I don't know if maybe Mr. Brimmers was the last one when they built them houses on the levee. And I can remember when they was building them houses, and everybody said that was not gonna make it. You can't sell no $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 houses in Freeport. They all sold because he had a vision, and that was a low income area. That was a drug infested area. I've been around Freeport forever, so that was the main thing. When they said, well, he can't build no $400,000 houses. It was infested with drugs. That's where all the crime was at. And every house he built over there sold off the water. That's what Freeport has missed out. We didn't capitalize on the water like we should. So when you have a vision, I like your vision, and I hope that, you do what you say you're going to do.
I appreciate your comments and your observations of what it takes to make any development, whether it's Freeport or anywhere successful. You need to see what needs to be done, what can make it attractive, so that people would want to come and live in Freeport. Also keep in mind, Freeport, you're down at the end of 288. I mean, it's still a long haul coming in. So you need to try and even attract other developers. Just not one developer. Get 3, 4, 5 other developers, and everybody comes in with different ideas. You know, like I appreciate your going and see the Lakeshore Harbor. Now, can you imagine if you could put that feature in here for the higher end, and people even north of Houston may want a house here with their yacht and to be able to get into the Gulf? I mean, that would be a nice feature. But there's so many other features that can be added into the city. And that's why having multiple developers here with different ideas, I mean, is the way to grow the city. But the bottom line is, you've got to create more traffic. You got to bring the traffic in. Traffic is going to determine what gets built, right? So, you know, as much as I would like to try and do everything, it is best if you could even have other developers coming in here and get their visions, see what they want to do, Mr. Petty, and with a collective amount of ideas, it will be better for the whole city. But I see the water feature living here to the Gulf of Mexico could be one of the attractions that will get more people higher end coming to live here. And that is only one feature. There's so many other things. And I would love to see big boxes coming in. And these guys are smart. They're going to do their homework, and they're going to want to see the traffic to justify their investment before they commit. You know, so I've been through all of this, and I'm very interested in participating in the development of Freeport, and I need to work with council to share our ideas, to get the support, and work together to build Freeport. And we're willing to take the risk, calculated risk, to help grow Freeport. But I can't do it alone. I'm going to need your help, your support, your understanding to make all of this thing possible.
Let me say something.
Yes, sir.
First of all, me personally, I use that old adage that I've been using ever since I've been on the council, is that it's a no-brainer. This that we're trying to start. I like what you say, Mr. Wong. This could be the start, and I like what Jarvis Davis said, that this project that we're trying to take on, if you build it, they'll come. That property Mr. Davis talked about, I remember telling the guy that did it, I said, you know what? I said, you're only one idea from being a millionaire. And you know what he told me? He said, you know what? I'm one idea from going broke also. And Tom, you know who I'm talking about. But that's true. We've been throwing that word around all night long, vision, and that's a powerful word, vision. I am so glad, Mr. Wong, that you decided to come back this way. I don't know what brought you back this way, but whatever it was, I'm glad to see you, because you, like you say, you're taking a risk to, and I'm saying this to everybody out there in cyberspace. You know, we got a lot of people that watch our meetings, and although there's not many here tonight, there's a bunch of them on Facebook watching it, because we broadcast it to whoever want to watch it. And I want to be the first to say that I would love for something like this to happen on my watch while I'm on the council. I would love, not that I'm going to take credit for it, but I would just love to see it. Let's move forward. Let's don't look back. Let's don't look back. Let's move forward. Everything that happened in the past, it's in the past. Can't change the past. But we as a council have the opportunity to get something started. I believe it only takes, look, you've heard your antics, take one match to start a bonfire or whatever. We could be that one match to get this thing started. I don't see any risk to the city. Now, maybe something I'm not seeing, but I do. I did the same thing. I went out to Lakeshore. I went out to Lakeshore Harbor and looked at that. That looked like something in Florida. If you go out there and look at that, that is amazing, beautiful. And for us to get something like that here in Freeport, or get it started, man, I think that's an opportunity that I don't think we should pass it up. It's just my thought. Everybody has a say on this, and that's just my thought. Mr. Wong, thank you very much for coming down here and looking after Freeport. I've been in Freeport longer than anybody in this room. I'm the oldest, almost by far. And
Got one head shaking
Oh,
negative
Tom?
out there.
Tom, how old are you, Tom? Oh my goodness, yeah, you are the oldest. I was talking about us. I was talking about us, and I just believe it's a great opportunity, regardless of how it turns out. But I just want it to be known that I think it's awesome. I think it's an awesome idea, an awesome vision that you have for this city. I love Freeport. Thank you, Mr. Wong.
I appreciate those comments, and if you like what you saw at Lakeshore Harbor with all the houses and water, with the docks in the back and boats hanging there, can you imagine if you had it in Freeport and you have access to get into the Gulf with your yacht? At Lakeshore, you're within that subdivision. There's no Gulf to go to. But can you imagine if you can get boats to get into the people in Dallas, people further north would probably want a home down here and pay the price for it. And that is just one of the ideas. I can see other things. And when I decided to come into Freeport to make an investment, I came in with a plan. Okay, let's do the industrial. Let's get a piece of land that can do housing, the 13 acres. Let's also get a retail site. All these I have acquired. Sitting down, mowing it, but like any development, there's always problems that you got to overcome. In the industrial park, there is big drainage that has to be taken care of. No, we're willing to take on that risk and spend the capital to improve it, and I would like to be able to negotiate a more feasible way of doing it. But you can see I've already made physical commitment to those 3 parcels of land, and I intend to fulfill the development of all of them. All of them. The only acquisition that I made here so far that I have not been able to do much about it, except today I got a lease on it, and that's the old pharmacy. The old pharmacy that's been battered by hurricane and by people and everything. And it was offered to me to purchase it, which I did. But the development is really going to be on the west side of Freeport, coming in. But today I can tell you, I got what sounds like a good lease for the pharmacy, with the whole thing being repaired, roof, doors, everything. So I'm working on that also. But that's a small part of the equation. What I need to get going is an industrial development to bring in the jobs and the people to live here. And what I would like to do is to acquire more land in the future to do more housing. Housing for traffic is what's going to create the growth in Freeport. That's how I'm looking at it.
Council, any more questions? Or comments? Well, I would like to say, everybody that knows anything about Freeport knows that we need rooftops.
Yeah.
And that rooftops means residential, rooftops also means commercial. And a comment that you had just made, you said on every development, there's obstacles. Okay, I know with speaking with you over the past 5 or 6 years on this, that the mud was one of your main obstacles on holding you back on this development. Is the mud the only obstacle remaining that you're aware of tonight?
Give me the mud that will allow me to compete with all the subdivisions north of Freeport. Give me the tools so that I can be an even playing field with those guys. And if I can get that in place with good operators for the mud, yes, that is what I need to be on an even playing field to help in the development of Freeport.
Good.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Can I
sir.
ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Were you talking about this?
Mhm.
Okay, look, right here. This right here.
Yeah.
The property that we're talking about today. The question is there any obstacles other than the mud to do this, to make this happen? This property right here, the mud come in and you make this happen.
Yes. All the engineering work, drainage, everything has been resolved.
There you go, the answer right there. Thank you.
I believe that's what we wanted to hear. So, Mr. Petty, do you have anything else you would like to?
No, sir. I'll continue the conversations with Mr. Wong based off of y'all's comments and things like that. And of course, if the city looks to move forward with this, then we'd have our financial advisors take a look at it as well. That's pretty normal. But do you know the threshold for big box stores? What's the threshold population-wise?
Can you repeat that?
The threshold for big boxes, big box stores, like
Yeah.
your H-E-B's, Kroger's, and things like that. What is the threshold to bring one of those commercial people here?
Adequate foot traffic. And adequate foot traffic and the spending power. That's all they need to be able to determine the viability of a development.
Yeah, because currently I know of 3 pieces of property we have here that can be developed in residential. And if that's not gonna be enough to bring a big box here, I strongly feel that we need to start looking at the lower end of the H-E-B's and things like that to start building that retail sooner than later.
You have to build more housing than just on that 13 acres. That is not enough. You got to build a lot more. And I will be interested to start to explore other sites that you have. I mean, you have another site near to the golf course that I've heard of, and there are other sites. But I'm committed. Not only will I start on the 13 acres, I want to keep industrial going, and I'm going to need more land to build housing. Housing is very important. I just don't want to see more traffic keep going in the evening back to Houston. I would take care of those in Houston. Let those come down to live. Let us stay here and enjoy life. Just like how you have lived here a long time, there's no reason why people should not be doing here and get all the services, everything they need in Freeport. Freeport has good advantage, and especially, Mr. Petty, on the land plan that I've seen, you have land that is right against the Gulf. I would like to examine that more and more to see what I can do. There's a lot of opportunities here, but you've got to go and look for it and make it work. And I think I've already committed to a good-sized industrial. I need more land for housing, because I'm very optimistic the industrial is going to be bringing in more jobs. And more jobs need housing, and housing needs retail.
It's all about rooftops.
What?
It's all about rooftops.
Jobs first, rooftops after.
The chicken or the egg. Mr. Pearson, did you want to say something? Come on up to the mic.
Yeah, I have several issues. I'm Tom Pearson, Freeport. I know Freeport needs more houses, no problem with that. Freeport has land, I don't understand why they're not looking at building houses. I understand that Mr. Wong got a sweet deal on that 13 acres and that 120 acres out there. 200,000 for 13 acres of pretty prime land over there. Within the last 2 years, you know yourself that the appraisals have gone way up. These little 25-foot lots went from like $2,000 to $11,000. So I'm curious as what the appraised value of that 13 acres is now and that 120 out there. When Mr. Wong bought that property, he was going to build houses. He was going to build all that up out there. But that's been, what, 13 years, 14 years since you've had that? And nothing's happened yet because he couldn't get the mud with this one down here, the 13 down here, and the 120 out there all together. Because these people have to be paying the taxes on that. I would like to know what the appraised value of that 13 acres is now. Do you know?
I hope it is higher than when I bought it.
Well, yeah, it's way higher than what you bought it, but you never did do anything with it like you said you was going to.
Because everything takes steps to do it. I was working in
okay.
first, I'm getting that going, going to create jobs, so I need place for housing.
Mm-hmm.
It follows a logic.
Yeah, I know what the logic is. I know exactly what the logic is, no doubt. Did I understand that there's gonna be some 25-foot lots?
It's not specified, just looking at the drawings that we have, there are some lots that are smaller than others.
I mean, Freeport was incorporated in 1912, and they put a whole bunch of those 25-foot lots in. And we've had, I don't know how many meetings on the city council about what we're gonna do with them 25-foot lots. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to put in another 25-foot lot.
Yep.
Come to Houston and we will show you what we have done on different sites.
But I can show you what we've done here too,
Yeah.
with 25-foot lots. They're still sitting there growed up in grass. Yeah. Okay. How can you get me the appraisal value on that property? That and that 120 out there from the county?
His wife is in the appraisal district. We can more than easy to get it for you. How does that matter in the equation?
What do you mean?
Getting you the appraised value.
I just wanna know. I'd like to know compared to what you paid for that property.
It's,
Oh,
and
it's definitely
it's,
higher. There ain't no
it's
doubt about
public
that.
record. You can look it up. You can go on the site and look it up.
Well, it's broke up in so many little pieces now, it's hard to tell.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I had.
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
What is that 120 acres you were making reference to? Which track is that?
The industrial part out there.
It's more than 120.
Well, whatever, 120, but what you gave for it was way lower than what it is.
Okay, now we talking about prices. Can I ask you, let me ask you, what was the property that we just, the developing on Skinner Street over there? How many acres is that?
19 acres,
19 acres. What we sell that 19 acres for?
150,000.
150,000. We talking about sweet deal.
Council, any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Wong, do y'all have anything else for us?
No, I would just like to get this matter resolved so I can move forward with development in Freeport. That's what I'm looking forward to do to get started. And I have a lot of work cut out for me, but I need to be able to have a clear understanding what council wants and how we need to work together. It just doesn't stop here tonight. It's going to be continuous. And other ideas are going to be coming up. There's going to be more land that's going to be brought up for annexation. So it's going to be a continuous process as we go forward with development in Freeport.
Well, this is a good way to start the conversation, and I really appreciate y'all's time. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for the interest in Freeport.
Okay, I appreciate it, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, gentlemen, with that, I'm going to say meeting adjourned. Y'all have a safe trip on your way home.
Okay, how do I understand, where do we go from here after this workshop?
Mr. Petty.
Being that this is just a workshop, we cannot take action on it. Okay, so this was basically set up for you to explain to the new council and myself as well what your plans are, what your goals are, what it's going to take to get there,
Yeah,
and gives council the opportunity to ask the questions that they have to you. From this point, we're going to put the ball back in Mr. Petty's court, and he will continue conversation, and eventually it'll end up in a city council meeting. And that's how it goes from here.
okay, so when do you think I would expect to have a final answer? Any time period?
We're going to let Mr. Petty answer that.
Well, it'll actually be at the recommendation of council to move forward with this project. And then it'll be placed on an agenda item or one coming up. And then you'll give another presentation if need be, and then they'll have an action item that night and they'll take action on it. But like I say, I'm going to send the information over to our financial advisor just to go through everything, and of course there'll probably be some changes engineering wise to this plan, because I think some of the entry coming off of Second Street and things like that are going to have to be adjusted. It doesn't look wide enough right now, but we'll get into those details if council moves forward with the project.
Okay. Well,
All right, thank you.
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Y'all
well,
have a
thank you
safe
so
trip
much, all,
home.
and looking forward to what's going forward. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We're definitely going to continue